Hello everyone, Alex with BIMitUp. Today we're going to continue with how to create Revit schedules, and I'm going to introduce you to color schemas in Revit. First, we're going to start with a key schedule. In this case, we're going to go with a fire occupancy hazard schedule. So based on the occupancy hazard from NFPA 13, you're going to be able to define several other parameters that are going to remain the same if the occupancy hazard is the same. And then we're going to use that in a room schedule or a space schedule if you want to be technically correct. Then we're going to jump into color schemas. So what this is going to allow you to do is to shade your floor plan in different colors depending on your fire occupancy hazard. And this can have a ton of applications. So I hope you find it useful, and I'll see you in Revit. In the Revit system, parameters are represented by two separate yet equally important groups: the key schedules that group parameters in tabular form, and the color schemas who represent them graphically. These are their stories. And before we even start, think about it. It makes sense. If you like this kind of content, make sure you subscribe to the channel. You can hit that bell so you get notifications and you don't miss any of our videos. So let's try to set up something like this, where you have the room name, room number, area, and then some parameters based off of NFPA 13, occupancy hazard, maximum protection area per sprinkler, the maximum distance between sprinklers, and let's say a typical sprinkler spacing within a room, and density, in GPM per square feet. So let's go ahead and try to do that. And for that, I'm going to create a new project. I'm going to use my plumbing template. Hit OK. Now I'm going to link in my architectural background. Origin to origin is fine. I'm going to go ahead and let's go to visibility graphics overrides. First, let's make sure that our rooms are visible. Let's also make sure that our room tags are visible. Let's see, room tags are visible. And now let's go ahead and annotate, and I'm going to do tag all, right? I'm going to include the elements from the linked files because I want to tag the rooms that are in the architectural model. And I'm going to hit room tags, right? Now I have all my rooms tagged, but if I wanted to create a room schedule like the one I just displayed, I should be able to click on each one of those rooms and set up certain parameters. And that's the challenge with just tagging rooms that are in the architectural model, right? If I want, I could create a schedule, a room schedule. I could come here to schedules, and I can do new schedules and quantities, and I can go to rooms. And I can say, okay, the building components that I want to schedule are the rooms in new construction, and I want to make sure that I include the elements in links because I don't have any rooms in my plumbing project. I have rooms in the architectural link because the architect created rooms. So I could easily do that. I could include elements in link, and let's say I want the name, and let's say the number, and let's say the area of the room, right? So now I can click OK, and this is my room schedule right here. Now the challenge would come when I try to add a field like, let's say, fire occupancy hazard, right? And when I try to do that, I go here to fields, and then I don't find it here, right? So I have to create a new one, new parameter, and let's say it's a common parameter, text, and let's say I want to group it under fire protection, right? And the name is going to be fire occupancy hazard, right? So fire occupancy hazard. is text, and I want to group it under fire protection. It's going to be a project parameter right now. I could also click on a share parameter and pull it out of my share parameter file, but for now I'm just going to keep it as a project parameter to show you what I want to show you. And that's perfect. It appears here, but now in order to change any values here, I cannot do that because I don't own these rooms. See, I cannot come to my project and select a room and then go to properties palette and change that parameter because I don't have any rooms, right? So instead of doing that, what we want to do is create mechanical spaces. So let's go ahead and first delete this room schedule, and then I want to get rid of all these tags, right? So I'll select all instances in the entire project. I'm just going to delete them. And now let's create some spaces, right? And for that, we have to first make sure that, let's click on our link and click here on edit type. And then here where it says room bounding, we need to make sure that's activated because otherwise you won't be able to create spaces. So that checkbox is what tells Revit, okay, I want you to use the walls as room bounding parameters, okay? As space bounding parameters. So again, always room bounding, it has to be checked. Now we can go to Analyze, and then here I can click on Space. And now we can create a bunch of spaces automatically. I'm going to place the spaces automatically right now. So 35 spaces have been created automatically. That's perfect. But now when I zoom in a little bit, I see that the spaces, you know, they're numbered, but they're all called space. I don't want that. You know, remember this used to be a female bathroom. This used to be a male bathroom, a janitor's closet. I want those names. So for that, what you do is you come here to space naming, and then Revit provides you with this very nice option in which it maps the names and numbers from the architectural model. So if the architectural model had a room called Office A01, my new MEP space is gonna be called Office A01. So that's fantastic. Let's try that. It's gonna apply for the 35 spaces. That's fine. Let's hit OK. Excellent. Now we have lounge, female, male, janitor. That's perfect. And now the beauty of this is that I can select this space, and this is my entity. This is my element, and I can do with it whatever I want. I can assign a certain space type for this. See, I could come here, space type, and from here I could select from different type of spaces. But not only that, I can add fields to these elements because now this is my element. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. And for that, we're going to create a space schedule very similarly to how we did with rooms. So I'm going to do new schedule and quantities, and I'm going to select spaces right here. I'm going to call it space schedule. Doesn't really matter. I can rename this later on. Okay, it's going to be in new construction, and I'm going to click OK. So what fields do I want to add? What parameters do I want to schedule? Well, definitely the name, that's for sure, the number, and let's keep the area just like we had before. And now what I'm going to do is notice that whenever you have ordinary hazard 1, you're going to have a maximum area per sprinkler of 130 square feet, a maximum distance between sprinklers of 15 feet, and you're going to have a density of 0.15 GPM per square feet, right? So it doesn't matter which room it is, as long as this is set to ordinary hazard, this should be repeated, okay? Similarly, if you have something that is categorized as a light hazard, then the maximum area per sprinkler is going to be 225, the maximum distance between sprinklers is going to be 15, and the required density is going to be 0.1 GPM per square feet. So what we want to do is take advantage of a tool that whenever you set up this parameter, all these parameters will follow automatically. So let's go ahead and do that. And for that, we're going to use a tool that's called a key schedule. And how do we do that? Well, we come here to schedules. We go new schedules and quantities. We're going to select spaces again. But in this case, instead of scheduling building components, I'm going to create a schedule key. And for now, the schedule key is called space style. I'm going to change it from space style to space fire occupancy. Okay. Why? Because that's what I'm going to use as a reference. Okay. It's going to be the space fire occupancy hazard. So actually, I don't need the word space. Let's just call it fire occupancy hazard. I'm going to click OK. And now we want to have in this schedule the key name, but now we want to add all these other fields: maximum area per sprinkler, maximum distance between sprinklers. So I'm going to take this to the other screen and I'm going to add those. Since those are not parameters that I have in my project right now, I'm just going to have to create them. So let's go ahead and create a new parameter. Okay, in this case, it's going to be a project parameter by default. I'm going to call it maximum area per sprinkler. Okay, and that's going to be in square feet. I'm going to keep discipline as common. It's going to be text, and I want to group this under fire protection, and I'm going to click OK. Now the next one is going to be the maximum distance between sprinklers, and that's going to be in feet. And the discipline, again, common, text, and I want to group it under fire protection. Now the next one is going to be typical sprinkler spacing. It's going to be text. I'll group it under fire protection. And then finally my density. That's going to be in GPM per square feet. And it's going to be text, and I'm also going to group it under fire protection. Right? So now I click OK, and a new schedule is created. And currently I have nothing, right? But as soon as I come here to insert data row, my first one can be, for example, light hazard. My maximum area for the light hazard is 225 square feet. My maximum distance in feet is 15. And my typical sprinkler spacing, if I want to have, let's say, acoustical ceiling tile, it's going to be 14 feet by 14 feet. And the density per NFPA 13 is going to be 0.1 GPM per square feet. Perfect. So that's my first line. Now I'm going to insert another data row. And this is going to be ordinary hazard group 1. And for that, the maximum area per sprinkler is 130 square feet per NFPA 13. The maximum distance is still 15 feet. But now the typical spacing, if you're going to have an ACT, it's going to be most likely 12 by 10. And now the density is going to be 0.15 GPM per square feet. And finally, let's say we're only dealing with 3 occupancy hazards. So let's add ordinary hazard 2. Then the maximum area for ordinary hazard 2 is also 130, and the maximum distance still 15. the typical spacing can also be 12 by 10, but now the density is going to be 0.20 GPM per square feet. And now here's where the magic happens. I click, I'm done with this schedule, right? And now what you do is you go back to your space schedule, and now let me remind you what we want to do. We want to end up with something like this, right? So what I'm going to do is add the key, which is in this case the fire occupancy hazard, and then all these is going to be brought up automatically. So you would come here to fields. Let's add now, how do we call it? I think we call it fire occupancy hazard. Yeah, here it is, fire occupancy hazard. So you bring it in here, right? And now we can add the other parameters as well. Maximum area per sprinkler, maximum distance between sprinklers. So let's go ahead and bring that in. Maximum area per sprinkler, here it is. Maximum distance between sprinklers, here it is. Then the typical sprinkler spacing right here. And finally the density in GPM per square feet. Perfect. And I noticed that for all these guys I have the units, and for the typical sprinkler spacing I have nothing. So let's go ahead and edit that real quick. So that would be in feet times feet. Now let's click OK. And now here's the beauty of the key schedule. If I have a lab, right, and the lab is, let's say, ordinary hazard group 2, you can select it now from here, and then all these values will be automatically filled. And if you're serious about your professional training, go ahead and visit us at BIMitUp.com. At BIMitUp.com, we offer professional training and coaching in mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and fire protection systems. We can also train you in Autodesk platforms like Revit or AutoCAD MEP. So go ahead and visit us at BIMitUp.com, or send me an email directly to the email you see on screen and let us know how we can help you achieve your professional goals. See? So you can do the same thing for all these labs. And you can also select that from your floor plan, right? And let's say you want all these labs to be ordinary hazard group 2. You can simply come here and select all that. You filter just to make sure that the only thing you're selecting is spaces. And then here under identity data, see, we have fire occupancy hazard. So you can select it from the drop down list, ordinary hazard 2. Boom. And then when you come to your schedule, there it is. See? So I'm gonna go ahead and fill all this up real quick. Probably gonna speed up the video there. So main mechanical room, ordinary 1. And then notice that I have this weird space. It's called space 15. Well, it's actually just one. Oh no, actually here it is. Space 22. And these weird spaces are typically spaces that don't have a room associated. For example, this one here. So I don't really care about this space. I should actually delete it. And the best way to delete a space is you come here to your space schedule, and then from here you stand here and you say delete row. That's the space being deleted. And let's see, let's delete this one. The stairs gonna be light hazard. Alright, so I'm done filling up this schedule. I'm gonna close out of here. I'm gonna close this one. And what I want to do is I want to create a color schema here. So I'm going to create a duplicate of this view. So duplicate view, I want to duplicate with detailing because I want to keep the space naming. And I'm going to call this fire protection occupancy hazard. Right? And then what I do here is I stay under the Analyze tab and I come here where it says Color Fill Legend. Okay? I'm going to place it, let's say here. And then what type of spaces I want to use is going to be spaces. And the color schema is, I only have one by default. I haven't created or edited anything, so I'm going to keep schema 1. I'm going to click OK. And notice that it automatically colored, but it colored based on which criteria. Let's see, in the room name. See, so all the labs, it put it in green. Then that doesn't really help me too much, you know. I don't want to do it based, you see the corridors are in this light beige, but that doesn't help me. So what I want to do is I want to come here to the color scheme here, and I'm going to edit it so that, well, first I don't want to call it like this. Let's call it fire protection room schedule. And now here's the interesting thing. The color, I don't want it based on the space name. I want it based on the fire occupancy hazard. See how now this becomes available? So let's do that. Just ignore that warning. And obviously you can change to whichever colors you want. I'm gonna leave it like that for now. Now you see, we have created a schedule on which the light hazard is in this light green, and then ordinary hazard. I'm going to change these colors a little bit just so that it's easier for me to identify. So let's say light hazard, I'm going to keep it as this green. Ordinary hazard, I'm going to keep it as this blue. But then this ordinary hazard 2, I'm going to change it to this orangey thing. Okay, there you go. So now you have a floor plan that is showing, depending on the occupancy hazard of each space, it has a different color. So everything in green is light hazard, everything in this bluish color is ordinary hazard group 1, and then these guys are ordinary hazard group 2. So in addition to this, you could probably, you know, let's say you're creating a new sheet, right? So you can come here, new sheet, let's use the default. You can bring this in. I'll adjust it some other time, but for now let's leave it like this. And you could also add your schedule if you wanted to. You could come here, and then I believe it was this one. Let me see. And that's pretty nice. You have a nice floor plan with the room tags, the occupancy hazard per the space, and a little table that tells the contractor, you know, it gives him a good idea of the spacing in each room. Obviously you can format this however you want. So, you know, you can come here to formatting, and then you can take all these guys and align it to the center. That probably looks a little nicer, and there you go. You know, and this would be some kind of like a summary schedule, but you could also drop in the schedule that you created that contains all the rooms, right? You can even get rid of this one. You can probably put it up here, for example. Can go to formatting and have all of those aligned to the center. That looks pretty nice. So you get the room name, the room number, the area, and some fire protection relevant information for the contractor. And if you have any questions on this topic or any other topic, just leave me a comment down there and I'll try to get to you as soon as I can. And if you have enjoyed this video, make sure you like it down there. Subscribe to the channel, hit that bell so you get notified. Thank you for watching and see you on the next video.